There's a brand new anime this season called Frieren, and it's the story of an elf mage named Frieren going on an epic journey with a powerful hero named Himmel, an alcoholic priest named Heiter, and Eisen, the steadfast dwarf. Throughout this journey, we'll get to see crazy fights supplemented by beautiful, fluid animation as per courtesy of Madhouse. From traveling dangerous dungeons filled with giant spiders that can entrap anyone in inescapable webs within moments, to confronting the almighty Demon King, whose arsenal of spells strikes absolute terror for anyone who's unfortunate enough to cross his path. The show begins with the young Frieren meeting Himmel, and the two quickly bond over their desire to trample the Demon King. Hold on. Did you even watch Frieren? No, but I read the synopsis. Did you even look at the full title of Frieren? Yeah, it's Frieren Beyond Journey's End. What do you think that means? It's the end of the journey? Wait, the quest is already complete? Bingo. So the Demon King, he's dead? No cool spells or dungeons? Oh, there's cool spells. But yeah, the Demon King is dead. So what? Is this show just about an elf walking around the grasslands talking about how she just saved the world? That sounds boring. Watch the prologue.
2 hours later.
So, how was it? Frieren, I'll be your friend! One of the most anticipated anime of this year, Sousou no Frieren, is finally here, and it's a unique take on the typical adventurer's take on the Demon King story, as the start of Frieren marks the end of the epic journey that the successful adventurers had just gone on. You may think to yourself that there's nothing else left on the bones of the story like this, since the meat, the actual epic adventure, is gone entirely. But that's what makes Frieren so special. It isn't an anime about a bunch of badasses taking down the Demon King and living happily ever after. It's an anime about the curse of a long lifespan and the loneliness and numbness it brings. Time is something that changes in our eyes as we get older and experience more things. For me, a week sometimes feels like an eternity, and a decade is damn near half of my life. But I know once I get older, the weeks will fly by even faster, and later, decades won't even feel nearly as monumental as they do right now. Take this idea and multiply it by 100, and you have the elf named Frieren. Elves in this world live a very, very long time. Although not an exact lifespan has been given to us throughout Frieren's first episode, it's easy to tell that Frieren has been around for a while, and she still doesn't know the ending of One Piece. At first, it's hard to grasp this idea of loneliness that comes along with a long lifespan, as Frieren seems like a very apathetic person who doesn't really understand relationships at all. You're telling me this is the main character? Some superpowered elf that has I don't give a fuck energy that I've seldom seen before? She comes off as bleak and cold and doesn't really see the value in things like human festivities, as they're celebrating what she sees as fleeting moments. This makes her a little hard to root for in the beginning since she's so emotionless, but we get to see why she's like this and her reasoning behind her behavior as the prologue goes on. You see, Frieren's heroic journey with Himmel and crew lasted 10 years. For us, 10 years is a really long time. You'd expect someone to come out of such a long journey with just 3 other people as a completely different person, sharing bonds with their crew since they spent so much time together in life or death situations constantly. Bonds that are thicker than blood that will last for eternity. This is how Himmel, Eisen, and Heiter saw the journey, and they held it in an extremely high regard, the pinnacle of their lives' achievement. They got to grow content with what they did, and they were celebrated by the people for the rest of their lives and basked in the glory of it all. At least, this was the case for Hugh and Himmel. But for Frieren, that 10-year journey might as well have been an afternoon stroll with people she briefly knew for a few hours. She didn't see the purpose in getting to know the people that she had traveled with since their journey was so short in her eyes. After all, she even says that their quest wasn't even 1% of her life. Why should she bother caring this much about people that she barely knew in her own eyes? Even so, Frieren is still a person with emotions and regrets, and we see this on full display when Himmel passes away of old age in the first episode. Frieren had come to visit him 50 years after their journey had ended, but when she met with him, she noted how old he had gotten while she was basically looking the exact same from half a century ago. What was she doing all this time? Collecting spells and traveling the land, which she made sound like a grocery trip. She didn't think much of the idea of not forming strong bonds until she finally came to the realization that she didn't really know anything about Himmel when he passed away, and we get to see her sob in her regret for not taking advantage of the fleeting time she shared with him and the rest of her crew. She finally realizes how short human lives were and resolves herself to learn more about them, even if they'll inevitably pass away before she can even blink. But her grand journey is over. How will she achieve such a goal without her original crew? This is where Fern, a young girl orphaned by war who wants to become a mage, comes in after an aging Heiter requests Frieren to train her. Frieren agrees after spending multiple years with Heiter, who was on his way to the other side. After his passing, Frieren roams the land with young Fern, who gets to learn more about what kind of person Frieren really is, and realizing that she just isn't some emotionless elf mage. We learn that Frieren travels the world looking for new spells and magic, claiming that she only does it for herself, even though she's always helping people in need. Time passes as the two of them travel together, and Fern gets to the age of 16 while Frieren still looks the exact same. During this journey, we see how sloppy Frieren can be sometimes, to the point where Fern basically has to drag her out of bed, dress her, and feed her, or else Frieren would be slumped until noon. We see glimpses of childlike wonder from Frieren and how truly clueless she is when it comes to understanding humans. But the most important part is that Frieren is now finally trying to get to understand people better actively, and why they value things that she saw as pointless due to how long she had been living. Frieren doubts herself repeatedly when it comes to this aspect, even commenting on how little she knew about Fern when she bought her a birthday present. During moments like these, we get small flashbacks of Frieren interacting with Himmel and Ko from almost 100 years ago. These flashbacks aren't heroic, epic battles, but more so focus on the companionship aspect that they all shared. Frieren finds herself suddenly remembering things like what their favorite foods were and how impressed and happy they were with her when she created a field of flowers from barren soil. It's moments like these where Frieren begins to learn how all the little things matter when it comes to building relationships and getting to know people better, and she uses this newfound knowledge to get closer with Fern. In the 4th episode, Frieren and Fern travel to a village to help clear up some rubble before New Year's Eve, so the villagers can see the sunrise in clear water. Even though she helps, Frieren doesn't really understand the value of it. After all, she had seen thousands upon thousands of sunrises that don't feel special to her. But since Fern appreciated it so much, since this was the first time experiencing something like this in her short life, Frieren grew to appreciate it too. We come to find out at the end of the prologue that Frieren's new goal is to travel to a place called Ariol, where souls rest, a place where she can talk to Himmel again and express her regret and finally get to know him, even though he's physically 6 feet under. Just like how I'll be if you don't like and subscribe. Please, the Demon King has me under hostage. Speaking of places, the world of Frieren is beautiful. It feels extremely vast, filled with different locations that present different challenges when traversing through them. We usually see these environments in short montages of Frieren hilariously trying to get through them with Fern. Even though Frieren has been a mage for so long, she doesn't feel like this almighty force that decimates everything around her, which I really appreciate. I also like how the show gives you a lot of time to reflect on what's being said and the realizations Frieren is going through. Sure, it might zoom through things that most people would find exhilarating, but the point of the show is to do exactly that. Not to focus on the fighting, but the times of reflection where Frieren ponders what humans value and how she can come to an understanding with them in order to connect with them on a deeper level. You can also see how lonely Frieren seems to be during these montages of her walking around in this vast world, which makes Fern's involvement with her all the more important. The magic system seems to be more than the basic use of mana to make fireballs go brr, and actually has depth to it. We learn that you need a combination of mana, strength, and control to use attack spells, and how defense spells are more costly on mana stores, so you have to be efficient with them. Magic evolves over time as well, as we saw when Frieren confronted Qual, an ancient mage who was one-shotting everyone back in the day with a spell that's seen as rudimentary in the current time. Frieren's vast knowledge of spells and her experience as a mage really shine here. I'm really excited to see where Sousou no Frieren goes. The premiere was absolutely beautiful, and even though it threw me off when it came to the themes it's tackling in such a fantastical world, it feels like a breath of fresh air. If Fern gets hurt though, oh man, woo! All I'm saying is, she better not leave Frieren alone. I know Madhouse is gonna go all out for this as well, and it seems like they've been delivering on expectations so far. Keiichiro Saito is the director of Sousou no Frieren, and you might recognize that name since he directed Bocchi the Rock last year, an anime that was famous for being insanely extra with how creative it was. The action director is Toru Iwasawa, who has worked on a lot of the popular new generation shonen and has showed out in all of them. I really enjoyed Frieren's prologue, and I can't wait to see how far Fern and Frieren go.